Chosen one, stop scrolling. Right now, why are you awake at 3 a.m. again, staring at bills you can't pay while millionaires sleep peacefully in penthouses above Manhattan? Why does it feel like God blessed everyone else's bank account but forgot yours exists? Why, after decades of faithful tithing, praying, believing, are you still choosing between medicine and groceries while mega church pastors fly private jets? Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. Your poverty has an expiration date, and it just expired. Heaven has cracked open a vault with your name engraved in gold across the lock. This isn't coincidence. This is divine summons. The same God who parted the Red Sea just whispered your name into a billionaire's blessing that's been sealed since before you took your first breath. But listen carefully. Something massive shifted in the spiritual realm 72 hours ago. The sound echoed through eternity like thunder over the Hudson River. Vault doors that have been rusted shut for decades are grinding open, and the first name called, yours. You feel that electricity in your chest right now, don't you? That's not your imagination, that's confirmation. Your spirit recognizing what your mind can't yet comprehend. You didn't stumble onto this message while scrolling through YouTube at midnight. You were summoned by the Almighty Himself. Why you? Why now? Why this exact moment when your faith is hanging by a thread thinner than Manhattan subway cables? Because God saves the best wine for last. Because your breakthrough had to be delayed until you were desperate enough to handle what's about to explode into your reality. Because every bill that mocked you, every rejection that broke you, every sleepless night that nearly killed you, it was all preparation for this billionaire's blessing that's about to rewrite your entire bloodline. Before I go deeper into this mystery that'll shatter everything you thought you knew about God's economy, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But right now, if you feel your chest stir, if something ancient in your spirit just awakened, type, "I'm ready" in the comments. That's not just typing, that's your signature with heaven. That's your spiritual contract saying, "Yes, God, I receive what you've prepared." Because what I'm about to reveal in the next 57 minutes will explain why you've suffered like Job, waited like Abraham, and endured like Moses. Stay until the end, because by the last word, you'll know exactly why God marked you, yes, you for a billionaire's blessing that'll make Wall Street weep with wonder. The vault is open. Your name is called. Heaven is moving. Don't you dare scroll away now. Why are you still counting pills instead of blessings at 75 years old? Why does your mailbox feel like a weapon of mass destruction, firing medical bills that cost more than your mortgage used to? Why do your own children treat you like a financial burden when you sacrificed 4 decades building their foundation? Dear chosen one, I see you there. Some of you are 70, 80, maybe even 90 years old, sitting in that same kitchen chair where you've cried 1,000 tears. Bills stacked higher than your hope on that scratched wooden table. Pills rattling in bottles that cost more than your weekly groceries. Your retirement fund, the one you worked 40 years to build, gone. Evaporated like morning mist over Central Park. Medical bills, market crashes, maybe even your own children who promised to help but disappeared when the money ran out. You've cried at 3 a.m. asking the ceiling, "Lord, did you forget my address? Did my prayers get lost in heaven's mail system?" The phone doesn't ring anymore unless it's debt collectors or automated voices demanding what you don't have. Your children moved to different states, different lives, different priorities. When you call, they're too busy. When you need them, they're unavailable. The grandchildren you spoiled with your last dollars barely know your name. You've become the forgotten generation, warehoused in assisted living facilities or abandoned in houses that echo with memories of better days. Society whispers you're too old, too slow, too outdated. Even the church, the place that once felt like home, now treats you like furniture. The young pastor speaks to the crowd but never meets your eyes. You're invisible at 75, discarded at 80, forgotten at 90. They've written you off as yesterday's news while you're still breathing today's air. But here's what's been eating at your soul like acid. You've been faithful. You tithed when you couldn't afford groceries. You prayed when your knees screamed in protest. You believed when believing felt like holding water in your bare hands. Yet here you are, deciding between heating bills and heart medication, wondering if God's blessing program has an age limit. The enemy has been whispering poison in your ear for decades. If God was going to bless you, it would have happened by now. Look at your bank account, look at your age, look at your failures. Face reality, you missed your season. But what if I told you that every sleepless night wasn't abandonment but preparation? What if every rejection wasn't God's silence but his strategy? Think about Joseph, 17 years old with dreams of greatness, then 13 years in prison for crimes he didn't commit. 13 years. Forgotten by the cupbearer who promised to remember him, rotting in an Egyptian dungeon while his dreams seemed to die with each sunrise. Do you think Joseph understood why God allowed betrayal by his own brothers? Do you think he knew why faithful service led to false accusations? But Genesis 50-20 reveals the divine plot twist. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Every year of Joseph's suffering was a semester in God's university, preparing him to manage the wealth of nations. The prison wasn't punishment, it was preparation for the palace. Look at Job, a righteous man who lost everything in 24 hours, his children, his wealth, his health, even his wife's support. Sitting in ashes, scraping boils with broken pottery, while friends accused him of hidden sin. Job 2:11 says his friends sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was. 7 days of silence. Sound familiar? How many years of silence have you endured? But Job 42:10 declares the turnaround. After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Not the same amount, twice as much. Double restoration for his faithfulness in the furnace. Consider Ruth, a foreign widow, with no social security, no 401 Kelvin, no safety net, following her mother-in-law Naomi back to Bethlehem with nothing but loyalty and hope, working in fields, gathering leftover grain like a common beggar. But every faithful step was positioning her for a divine appointment with Boaz that would place her in the bloodline of Jesus Christ. The suffering is proof you're qualified. Hell doesn't attack nobodies. The devil doesn't waste his best ammunition on people with no purpose. Every financial attack, every health crisis, every family betrayal was Satan's desperate attempt to destroy what God was building in secret. The intensity of your warfare is evidence of your worth in heaven's economy. Your tears haven't been ignored, they've been collected. Psalm 56:8 says, God stores your tears in his bottle. Every midnight prayer session when you couldn't sleep, every whispered cry for help when the bills came, every moment you chose faith over fear, it's all been recorded in heaven's ledger. The delay wasn't divine neglect, it was divine investment. God wasn't just preparing your blessing, he was preparing you to steward it. A 30-year-old with millions becomes reckless, but a 70-year-old with billions becomes a nation changer. Your gray hair isn't a crown of decline, it's a crown of wisdom. Your wrinkles aren't marks of decay, they're evidence of endurance. Every year you've lived, every battle you've survived, every tear you've shed has been building something in the unseen realm that's about to manifest in ways that will leave economists speechless and your enemies stunned. If that word hit your spirit like lightning splitting the night sky over Manhattan, declare in the comments, I am qualified. Let heaven hear your voice. Let hell know you're still standing, because what's coming next will prove that the best wine was always saved for last. And your vintage is about to shock the world. You've been living like a spiritual pauper, haven't you? Counting pennies at the grocery store checkout while your heart screams for something more. Clipping coupons at 75 years old, rationing your medications, watching your grandchildren go without because you can't afford to help. You've been begging God for scraps from heaven's table, whispering desperate prayers into empty bank accounts. But listen to me, chosen one. While you've been scraping by, God has been preparing a feast that'll make billionaires look poor. There's a vault in the spiritual realm that's been sealed for centuries, massive, ancient, older than the Brooklyn Bridge, stronger than Manhattan bedrock. Angels have guarded its entrance since before time began, and engraved across its lock, in letters of pure gold, is your name, not your neighbor's name, not your pastor's name, yours. Why has this vault remained locked for so long? Because God was waiting for the exact moment when your desperation would meet his divine timing. Waiting for you to reach the place where you'd finally stop trusting in your own strength and surrender completely to his provision. Deuteronomy 8:18 declares with thunderous authority, "It is he who gives you power to produce wealth, not luck, not connections, not Wall Street wizardry, him." The same God who fed 5,000 with a boy's lunch is about to feed your bank account with supernatural multiplication. But let me shock you with something the prosperity preachers won't tell you. This isn't about accumulating wealth like some spiritual Scrooge McDuck swimming in gold coins. This is legacy wealth, generational impact, the kind of blessing that doesn't just change your life, it rewrites your entire family tree for the next 100 years. Think about Abraham. God didn't bless him with cattle and silver just so he could live comfortably in his tent. That wealth became the foundation for nations. Every dollar God places in your hands carries the same DNA, designed to multiply, designed to heal, designed to transform communities. Your great-granddaughter, who hasn't been born yet, she'll attend Harvard on money you're about to receive. That struggling single mother in your neighborhood, she'll escape poverty because of your generosity. The homeless shelter that's been praying for funding, you're about to become their answered prayer. But here's the question that's burning in your chest right now. Why would God give you this blessing now? In your 70s? In your 80s? When society has written you off as irrelevant? When your own children see you as a burden instead of a blessing? Because now he can trust you with it. Think about it. Would God hand a 20-year-old $1 billion? They'd blow it on cars, parties, and foolishness. Would he give it to a 30-year-old? They'd build an empire for their own ego. But you've walked through enough valleys to know that money isn't the goal, ministry is. You've buried enough dreams to understand that earthly treasures fade, but eternal impact lasts forever. Every gray hair on your head is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle on your face is a map of battles won. Every ache in your bones is proof that you've endured what would have destroyed weaker souls. God didn't delay your blessing because he forgot about you. He delayed it because he was preparing you to handle it with the maturity that only comes from surviving hell and still praising him. You know what breaks my heart? Some of you are sitting there thinking, this sounds too good to be true. Why would God choose me? I'm nobody special. I've made too many mistakes. I've failed too many times. Stop right there. The enemy has been whispering those lies in your ear for decades, trying to disqualify you from what God has already qualified you to receive. Your mistakes don't cancel God's mercy. Your failures don't void his faithfulness. Romans 11:29 settles it forever. The gifts and calling of God are without repentance. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, something is shifting in the heavenly places. Can you feel it? That electricity in the atmosphere around your life. Those aren't chills running down your spine. That's the presence of the Almighty confirming what your spirit already knows. The vault with your name on it is creaking open. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. This window won't stay open forever. Divine opportunities have divine timing. When God says now, he means now. When he says you, he means you. The same God who told Moses to strike the rock at the exact right moment is telling you to position yourself to receive at this exact right moment. The sound you're hearing in your spirit right now, that distant rumbling like subway trains beneath Manhattan, that's not thunder. That's the sound of heaven's vault doors grinding open after centuries of silence. The angels who've been guarding your blessing are stepping aside. The Father who's been preparing your harvest is about to release it. You've spent decades wondering if God sees your struggle, if He knows about the bills that keep you awake, if He cares that you've given everything and received what feels like nothing in return. But every tear you've cried has been collected in bottles. Every prayer you've whispered has been recorded in books. Every sacrifice you've made has been accumulating compound interest in heaven's bank. The vault is more than open, chosen one. It's overflowing. If you believe the vault has your name engraved on it, if you can feel the shift in your spirit, if something ancient in your soul is awakening to this truth, type in the comments right now. The vault is open. That's not just words on a screen. That's your declaration to heaven that you're ready to receive what God has been preparing to give. But the question that will determine everything is this: are you prepared for what happens when God decides to prove that the best wine was always saved for last? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. I need to ask you something that's going to cut straight through your soul like a blade through silk. Why have you always felt like a stranger in your own skin? Why, even in a room full of family, do you feel more alone than a lighthouse keeper in a storm? Why does success feel hollow when you achieve it? And why do earthly pleasures taste like sawdust in your mouth? Here's the truth that'll shake you to your foundation. You weren't born broken. You were born marked. That restlessness gnawing at your chest for 7 decades isn't depression, it's recognition. Your spirit recognizing that you don't belong to this world's frequency. You've been tuned to heaven's station, while everyone else listens to earth's static. But the enemy saw your marking before you did. He recognized the threat you posed to his kingdom while you were still in diapers. This is why your life has been harder than most. This is why every victory came with a price tag that nearly bankrupted your soul. This is why betrayal followed you like a shadow, even from those who shared your blood. You think you attracted bad luck? No, beloved. You attracted spiritual warfare. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on nobodies. He doesn't deploy his best demons against people who pose no threat to darkness. But you've been in his crosshairs since your first breath, because hell recognized what heaven placed inside you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. Look at David, a forgotten shepherd boy, so insignificant his own father didn't bother calling him when the prophet came looking for the next king. While his brothers stood tall and impressive, David was in the fields with sheep, dreaming dreams that seemed impossible for someone so small. But God doesn't see what man sees. 1 Samuel 16:7 declares, "Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." That overlooked boy became the greatest king in Israel's history. The one they forgot became the one God remembered forever. You've been overlooked too, haven't you? Passed over for promotions, ignored at family gatherings, dismissed because of your age. But here's what they missed. The same oil that anointed David is flowing through your spiritual veins right now. Moses was 80 years old when God called him from a burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in a nursing home. Social Security would have called him retired. But God was just getting started with him. For the next 40 years, Moses would part seas, lead nations, and speak face to face with the Almighty. Your age isn't your limitation. It's your qualification. Every gray hair is wisdom earned through fire. Every wrinkle tells a story of endurance that younger generations can only dream of possessing. But I need you to understand something that might disturb your comfort zone. The attacks against your life weren't random. The financial struggles that kept you awake at night, the health scares that made you question everything, the children who broke your heart, the spouse who abandoned you, the friends who betrayed your trust. Every single arrow was aimed with precision because the enemy knew what you were carrying. He saw the billionaire's blessing locked in your spiritual DNA, and he's been trying to kill it before it could manifest. Think about Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, 27 years of being told he was a terrorist, a criminal, a nobody. But those prison walls weren't containing a prisoner, they were incubating a president. The very suffering meant to destroy him was actually preparing him to lead a nation. Or consider Anna Mary Robertson, better known as Grandma Moses. She didn't pick up a paintbrush until she was 78 years old. 78! But in her final decades, she created over 1,600 paintings and became one of America's most celebrated folk artists. Museums around the world display her masterpieces today. What the world calls too late, God calls right on time. You've been like a diamond buried 3,000 feet underground for decades. The pressure wasn't punishment, it was processing. Every trial compressed your character. Every hardship crystallized your calling. Every betrayal polished your purpose. And now, at an age when society expects you to fade into the background, God is saying, it's time to shine. You're not too old for God's best, beloved. You're finally old enough to be trusted with it. The young have energy, but you have experience. They have passion, but you have proven faithfulness. They have dreams, but you have tested faith. And God is about to hand you resources that require all three. This billionaire's blessing isn't coming to someone who might waste it on youthful foolishness. It's coming to someone who understands stewardship, someone who knows the value of $1 because they've counted every penny, someone who won't let prosperity poison their purpose. The enemy thought he won when he attacked you for decades. He celebrated every setback, every closed door, every broken dream. But he made one fatal mistake. He showed his hand too early. By fighting you so hard, he revealed how dangerous you really are. And now his time is up. Right now, as I speak these words, something is shifting in the heavenly realm. The same God who promoted Joseph from prisoner to prime minister in one day is positioning you for elevation that will leave your enemies speechless. But I need to hear you declare it. I need heaven to witness your agreement with what God has already decreed over your life. If you know you've been marked by heaven, if you recognize the warfare you've survived, if you're ready to step into the authority your suffering has earned you, type it out loud. I am unstoppable in Christ. Don't just think it, declare it. Because what you're about to discover next will explain why this billionaire's blessing had to wait until this exact season of your life and why the timing is more perfect than you ever imagined. Chosen one. I need you to understand something that's going to shatter every lie the devil has whispered in your ear for the last 40 years. You've been sitting there, 73 years old, watching prosperity preachers on television drive Bentleys while you're splitting pills in half to make them last another week. You've seen televangelists build golden empires while you're choosing between heating your apartment or buying groceries. And something inside you has been screaming, God, where's my blessing? Where's my breakthrough? Did you forget I exist? But here's the shocking truth that'll bring you to your knees. God didn't forget you. He's been preparing you. Every sleepless night you've spent counting pennies instead of sheep. Every humiliating moment at the pharmacy when your card got declined. Every time you've had to tell your grandchildren maybe next time, when they asked for something simple, God saw it all. And He's been building something in the unseen realm that's about to explode into your reality, like old faithful geyser bursting through Yellowstone's surface. Listen to me carefully, beloved. Luke 6:38 declares, Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. Pressed down, shaken together, running over. That's not talking about a gentle trickle of blessing. That's talking about an avalanche of abundance, so aggressive it spills out of your lap, floods your living room, and forces everyone in your family to grab buckets just to help you contain what heaven is pouring out. But why has it taken so long? Why did God make you wait until your joints ache and your energy fades? Because He needed to break something in you first. He needed to crush your self-reliance like grapes in a winepress until all that remained was desperate dependence on Him alone. You see, a 20-year-old with millions becomes a fool, but a 70-year-old with billions becomes a nation changer. God couldn't trust you with this blessing when you were young and arrogant. He had to wait until you were old and wise, until your pride was buried under decades of humility, until your character was refined by the furnace of financial struggle. Every gray hair on your head is a wisdom deposit. Every wrinkle on your face is a testimony etched by time. Every scar from every battle you've survived is proof that you're unbreakable. And now, right now, God is about to release a billionaire's blessing through someone the world has written off but heaven has written in. But let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your soul. If the enemy fought this hard to keep you poor, if he attacked your finances for decades, if he stole from you, cheated you, and left you scraping by on Social Security, how massive must your real blessing be? Think about it. Chosen one. Satan doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Hell doesn't invest decades in destroying lives that don't threaten the kingdom of darkness. The very fact that you've been under financial attack your entire life is undeniable proof that you're carrying something he desperately wants to stop. Your poverty was never punishment, it was preparation. Every bill that mocked you was actually God's way of building hunger in your spirit for what he was about to release. Every rejection from the bank was heaven redirecting you away from human systems towards supernatural supply. Every closed door was divine protection from blessings that would have corrupted you before you were ready to steward them properly. But the waiting is over, beloved. The preparation is complete. Right now, as I speak these words, there's a river of blessing that's been flowing underground in your life since before you took your first breath. It connects directly to the throne room of heaven, and it's about to burst through the concrete of your circumstances like a geyser that cannot be contained. This isn't just about money, dear one. This is about vindication. This is about God showing up so powerfully in your life that everyone who counted you out will have to count you blessed. This is about divine justice for every person who looked at your age and saw limitation instead of seeing the lion that was about to roar. Deuteronomy 8:18 settles it forever. It is he who gives you the power to get wealth, not luck, not connections, not inheritance. Him, the same God who parted the Red Sea, is about to part your financial struggles. The same God who fed 5,000 with a boy's lunch is about to multiply what little you have left into more than you can imagine. But here's what's going to shock your nervous system. This blessing isn't coming slowly. When God decides to flip your financial script, it happens with the force of Niagara Falls. Joseph went from prison to palace in one afternoon. Ruth went from gleaning scraps to owning fields in one harvest season. The Israelites went from slavery to carrying Egypt's wealth in one night. Your breakthrough isn't going to trickle in over years. It's going to flood in over days. It's going to hit your life with such supernatural velocity that you'll need divine strength just to process what's happening to you. Can you feel it building? That pressure in your chest, that electricity in your prayers, that sudden hope you can't explain away. Your spirit is picking up frequencies from heaven's treasury, and the vault doors are creaking open. The billionaire's blessing isn't coming, chosen one. It's here. It's not future. It's present. It's not possible. It's inevitable. Raise your hand right now. Place it on your chest. Feel heaven's drumbeat pounding in your pulse. Now shout it until your neighbors hear you. This is my season. Because what happens next will prove that God saves the best wine for last, and your vintage is about to make Wall Street weep with wonder. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will separate the wheat from the chaff, the called from the curious, the stewards from the squanderers. This billionaire's blessing thundering toward your life isn't a cosmic lottery ticket. It's not God's way of saying, go buy yourself a nice retirement home in Florida and disappear into comfortable irrelevance number. This is a divine commission disguised as a financial explosion. You think Abraham received those flocks and herds to build the world's first biblical man cave? Think again. Genesis 12:2 declares God's true intention. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and you will be a blessing. Not blessed to hoard, blessed to heal, not rich to relax, rich to restore. Every dollar about to flood your bank account carries a divine DNA. Every check that'll shock your mailman contains a heavenly assignment. You're not being crowned as a consumer, beloved. You're being commissioned as a commander in God's army of abundance. Look at Esther, one woman with access to the Persian treasury. She could have lived like a queen, draped in silk, fed grapes by servants, forgotten by history. Instead, she weaponized her wealth to save an entire race from genocide. Esther 4:14 thunders with prophetic fire. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Your billionaire's blessing is your royal position for such a time as this. Joseph controlled Egypt's grain reserves when 7 years of famine threatened to starve the known world. He could have sold that grain to the highest bidder, built monuments to his success, lived in luxury while nations crumbled. Instead, he opened the storehouses, fed the hungry, preserved the bloodline of Christ himself. Genesis 50-20 reveals heaven's strategy. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Your wealth isn't for your comfort. It's for countless lives hanging in the balance. Right here in America, we've seen this divine pattern repeated. Tyler Perry didn't just get rich to buy more studios. He feeds entire communities every Thanksgiving, houses the homeless, funds scholarships for kids who look just like he did when he was sleeping in cars. Oprah didn't accumulate billions to collect more awards. She built schools in Africa, educated thousands of girls who had no voice, no chance, no hope. They understood something that separates true billionaires from mere millionaires. Your blessing is only as big as your burden for others. But here comes the sobering question that'll determine whether you're qualified for what's coming. What will you do when millions hit your hands? I'm serious. Don't scroll past this. Don't treat this like a theoretical exercise. When God places financial power in your grip that could change thousands of lives, will you use it? Or will it use you? Will you be the answer to that single mother's desperate prayer, the one who's been choosing between electricity and groceries for 6 months straight? Will you be the miracle that saves that family farm that's been in someone's bloodline for 4 generations? Will you be the breakthrough that funds the homeless shelter your city desperately needs? Or will you become another cautionary tale of blessing without burden, wealth without wisdom, prosperity without purpose? Here's what terrifies hell about your coming financial explosion. You've been refined by fire. You've been broken by betrayal. You've been humbled by hardship. Every tear you've cried over unpaid bills wasn't waste. It was water preparing the soil for supernatural compassion. Every sleepless night counting pennies wasn't punishment. It was preparation for counting souls you'll impact. The devil isn't afraid of rich Christians. He's terrified of prepared Christians who get rich. God is watching your heart right now. He's testing your motives before he releases your millions. Every thought you're thinking about this blessing is being recorded in heaven's ledger. Are you dreaming of what you'll buy or who you'll bless? Matthew 25-21 contains the master key to multiplication. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Your faithfulness with little determines your capacity for much. Your stewardship in poverty qualifies your authority in prosperity. But I need to shock you with something that'll either make you weep or make you run. Somewhere in your city tonight, there's a 3-year-old veteran eating cat food because his pension won't cover both medication and meals. There's a grandmother raising her drug-addicted daughter's children on Social Security that barely covers the utilities. There's a family about to lose their home because medical bills consumed their life savings. They're not statistics, they're assignments. They're the reason God is about to make you impossibly wealthy. Your blessing isn't about your bank account, it's about their breakthrough. Luke 12:48 delivers the eternal equation. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. This isn't a suggestion, it's spiritual law. The more God trusts you with, the more He expects you to transform with it. Your billionaire's blessing comes with billionaire's responsibility. Are you ready to carry that weight? Write one way you'll steward this blessing in the comments right now. Not tomorrow, now. Every comment is a seed planted in the spiritual realm. Your preparation is your proof to God that you're ready for promotion. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how this wealth will flow into your hands and why it's coming faster than you ever imagined possible. Chosen one, close your eyes for a moment. Picture your great-grandchild, maybe not even born yet, standing in a Manhattan boardroom 50 years from now. Picture them signing papers, making decisions that change thousands of lives. They don't even know your name, but they're walking in the blessing you're about to receive right now. This billionaire's blessing isn't just about your bank account today. It's about bloodlines. It's about generations you'll never meet, eating from the fruit of the seed God is planting through you in this very hour. Proverbs 13:22 declares with thunderous authority, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." Not just money, beloved. Inheritance, open doors, divine favor. Generational momentum that breaks poverty off family trees like dead branches in a Central Park storm. You are not just receiving money. You are birthing a legacy. But I know what's breaking your heart right now. Those children who wrote you off when the money got tight. Those grandchildren who used to climb on your lap, but now barely return your phone calls. The ones who rolled their eyes when you said God had a plan. The ones who whispered behind your back when you lost everything again. They called you foolish for believing. They called you delusional for trusting. They called you a burden when you needed help. But Proverbs 31:28 is about to manifest in your living room. Her children arise up and call her blessed. They're going to call you blessed, dear one. That son who stopped visiting when your 401 Kelvin disappeared. He's going to call you blessed. That daughter who was embarrassed to bring friends around your tiny apartment. She's going to call you blessed. Those grandchildren who act like you don't exist on social media. They're going to frame your picture in their million-dollar homes and tell their children stories about the day Grandpa's prayers finally broke through heaven's vault. Your name is about to be etched like oak rings in an ancient tree. Each ring tells a story of survival, of seasons weathered, of roots that refused to die. Every financial storm you survived carved another ring of wisdom into your spiritual DNA. Every betrayal that should have killed you only made your legacy stronger. Somewhere in your bloodline right now, there's a single mother working 3 jobs, wondering how she'll pay for her daughter's textbooks. There's a teenager who thinks suicide is his only escape from poverty. There's a great-granddaughter not yet born who'll need college money you'll never see her earn. This blessing racing toward your life isn't just for you, it's for them. You are becoming someone's answered prayer. That child who hasn't taken their first breath will stand in a mansion you bought. They'll get an education you funded. They'll start a business with capital you invested. They'll walk through doors you opened before they were even conceived. Your faithfulness today becomes their inheritance tomorrow. But here's what'll bring tears to your eyes, that family that counted you out. They miscounted. They thought your story was ending when God was actually preparing your greatest chapter. They measured your worth by your wallet when heaven measured your worth by your worship. Isaiah 54:17 is activating over your bloodline right now. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Not just against you, beloved, against your seed, against your children's children, against generations that haven't been born yet. The poverty spirit that haunted your father, broken. The addiction that claimed your brother, severed. The depression that tormented your mother, shattered. Every generational curse is being incinerated by the fire of this billionaire's blessing. You're not just getting wealthy, you're becoming a generational game changer. Your obituary won't just say you died rich, it'll say you died responsible for shifting an entire family tree from poverty to prosperity, from cursed to blessed, from forgotten to favored. That nursing home where they put you to die, you're about to own it. That bank that foreclosed on your house, you're about to buy their building. That family that turned their backs, they're about to turn around and see the glory of God shining so bright on your life they'll need spiritual sunglasses. 50 years from now, your great-great-grandchildren will gather around Thanksgiving tables in homes you purchased, eating from abundance you established, walking in authority you activated. They'll bow their heads and say, "Thank you, God, for the ancestor who broke through when everyone else broke down." You think you're too old to change your family's destiny? Abraham was 75 when God called him to father nations. Sarah was 90 when she birthed the impossible. Moses was 80 when he started his greatest work. Your breakthrough wasn't delayed, it was perfectly timed for maximum generational impact. Right now, the Spirit of the living God is downloading strategies into your mind that will make your children weep with gratitude. Ideas are dropping into your spirit like rain on cracked pavement. Connections are being orchestrated in boardrooms you've never seen. Opportunities are aligning like stars over Manhattan's skyline. But here's the question that'll determine everything. Will you receive this billionaire's blessing not just for yourself, but for the generations that need you to say yes? If you believe your children and grandchildren will walk in this blessing, if you're ready to break every chain off your family tree, declare it right now with the authority of someone who knows their God keeps his promises. My house is covered. My lineage is blessed. My legacy is sealed. Because what happens next will prove that the best inheritance isn't money in the bank, it's favor in the bloodline. Why do you hear whispers every morning saying, "It's too late. You missed your chance"? God won't bless someone like you. Listen to me, chosen one. That voice that wakes you up at 4 a.m. isn't your conscience. It's not wisdom. It's not reality. That's the devil himself. A psychological terrorist who's been running a propaganda campaign in your mind for decades. He whispers when you look at your social security statement, "This is all you'll ever have." He hisses when you see your grown children struggling. You failed them. You failed yourself. He plants thoughts in your head like landmines. At 75, dreams are for fools. At 68, breakthrough is fantasy. At 82, God's already moved on. But I'm here to expose the greatest lie ever told to God's chosen ones. That age is expiration. That voice in your head is playing a broken record, looping the same poisonous lies over and over until you believe them. Click, you're forgotten. Click, you're too old. Click, your best days are buried with your youth. It's been playing so long you think it's your own thoughts, but it's not. It's hell's propaganda machine trying to keep you from your billionaire's blessing. The lie says you're forgotten. The truth says you're chosen. The lie says you're too old. The truth says you're just getting started. The lie says God moved on. The truth says God's been waiting for you to move forward. Listen to God's trumpet of truth, drowning out that broken record. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Sarah laughed at 90 because she thought it was too late, then gave birth to nations. Caleb was 85 when he demanded his mountain and took it by force. You think you're past your prime. You're entering your power. You think you're running out of time. You're running into your time. The same God who gave those biblical giants their greatest victories in their twilight years is calling you out of retirement and into your destiny. But the enemy knows something about your future that he doesn't want you to discover. He sees what's coming down the pipeline of prophecy, that billionaire's blessing with your name written in gold. So he's been working overtime, planting mental weeds in the garden of your thoughts. Every morning when you look in the mirror, he whispers, "Look at those wrinkles. Look at that gray hair." God uses young people for great things. But Romans 4:17 declares that God calls those things which do not exist as though they did. Your age doesn't limit God, it liberates him to show off through someone the world has written off. The enemy planted shame in your spirit about wanting wealth. He made you feel guilty for dreaming of abundance. He convinced you that poverty was piety, that struggling was spiritual. But Deuteronomy 8:18 shatters that lie. Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth. You've been programmed to believe that senior citizens should settle, should accept their limitations, should be grateful for scraps. But 3 John 1-2 says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." God's will isn't your survival, it's your prosperity. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, something is breaking in the spiritual realm. Every chain of mental torment that's held you captive, the chain of too late, the chain of not enough, the chain of God forgot me, they're not gradually loosening, they're snapping. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Can you hear it? That sound of metal breaking. That's the sound of decades of lies crumbling under the weight of God's truth. That's the sound of your mind being liberated from the prison of limitation. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is surging through your thoughts right now, casting down every imagination that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. Every limiting belief, every hopeless thought, every whisper that says you're finished, it's being demolished by the wrecking ball of divine truth. I need you to do something right now that's going to shift everything. Touch your head. Go ahead. Put your hand on your forehead. Feel that? That's not just bone and skin. That's the temple where God's thoughts are about to replace the devil's lies. Now declare with me. My mind is free. My spirit is unstoppable. The lies have no power. The truth has taken over. But here's what's about to shock you. The same enemy who's been terrorizing your thoughts knows exactly why he had to work so hard to keep your mind in chains. Because when your mind is finally free, when you truly believe you're chosen for a billionaire's blessing, nothing in hell or earth can stop what God's about to release through you. The question is, now that your mind is breaking free, are you ready to discover what the enemy was so desperate to hide from you? Listen to me, chosen one. I need you to stop right now and think about something that's going to cut straight through to your soul. You're 72 years old. You worked 43 years for the same company. Trusted them with your pension, your retirement, your golden years. Then one Tuesday morning, they called you into HR and said, "We're restructuring. Your pension? Gone. 43 years of loyalty? Worthless. Your future? They handed it to you in a cardboard box, along with a plastic plant and a form letter. You went home that day and sat in your kitchen, staring at bills you couldn't pay with Social Security that wouldn't cover them. Your own children looked at you with pity instead of respect. Society whispered, "You should have saved more. You should have known better." But what if I told you something that would shatter every assumption you've made about that devastating moment? What if that pink slip wasn't your termination, it was your liberation? What if that betrayal wasn't your ending, it was your beginning? Here's the divine reversal that's about to blow your mind. What they buried as a coffin, God reveals as a seed. What they called your end, heaven calls your beginning. Think about Joseph, 17 years old, carrying dreams bigger than Egypt itself. His own brothers, his own blood, threw him in a pit and sold him like cattle. 13 years later, he's rotting in an Egyptian prison for a crime he didn't commit. Everyone who knew his story wrote his obituary. Poor Joseph had such potential. Too bad his life ended in that dungeon. But God was writing a different story. Genesis 45:5 records Joseph's stunning revelation. "Do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." Did you catch that? The betrayal wasn't punishment, it was positioning. The prison wasn't his grave, it was his preparation ground. Every tear he cried in that cell was watering the seeds of wisdom he'd need to save nations from famine. You've been living Joseph's story, haven't you? That betrayal at work, that was God moving you out of Egypt and into your promised land. That financial devastation, That was heaven clearing the old foundation to build something magnificent you never could have imagined. Job understood this mystery too. In one day, one catastrophic day, he lost his children, his wealth, his health. His wife told him to curse God and die. His friends accused him of secret sins, but Job 42:10 declares the reversal. The Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Not the same amount, twice as much. Double restoration for single devastation. That's God's mathematics, beloved. That's heaven's economy. But here's where it gets personal for you. Sitting there in your 70s, 80s, wondering if your best days are ancient history. You think God's timeline expired with your youth. You think divine favor has an age limit. You think prosperity has a retirement age. That's the devil's biggest lie. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. 80. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Sarah was 90 when she laughed at the impossible, then gave birth to it. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. Your gray hair isn't evidence of decline, it's proof of divine selection. Every wrinkle tells a story of survival. Every slow step carries the weight of wisdom that money can't buy and schools can't teach. But here's the question that's burning in your chest right now. What if the very thing that broke you was the setup for the blessing about to burst? That pension they stole? God's about to give you an inheritance they can't touch. That company that betrayed you? Heaven's about to position you as the answer to someone else's prayer. That family that wrote you off? They're about to witness a comeback story that rewrites their definition of impossible. The pattern is always the same in God's kingdom. Rejected, then refined. Betrayed, then positioned. Forgotten, then remembered. David was forgotten in the fields when the prophet came looking for Israel's next king. But that forgetting was preparation for his anointing. Ruth was rejected by her homeland, widowed, left with nothing. But that nothing became the pathway to royal bloodline. The disciples were betrayed by Judas, scattered by fear, devastated by the crucifixion. But 3 days later, they discovered that what looked like the end was actually the beginning of the greatest movement in human history. Right now, in this very moment, God is orchestrating your divine reversal. That door they slammed in your face, He's opening 3 more. That opportunity they said you were too old for, He's creating one tailor-made for your experience. That dream they buried, He's breathing resurrection life into its bones. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. This reversal isn't automatic. This breakthrough isn't guaranteed just because you're breathing. Heaven is moving. But you have to move with heaven. You have to stop agreeing with the voices that say you're finished and start aligning with the voice that says you're just beginning. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season. Your season of loss is ending. Your season of restoration is beginning. Your season of being overlooked is finishing. Your season of being overwhelmed with blessing is starting." The question isn't whether God can reverse your situation. The question is whether you believe He's already begun. If you believe God is flipping the script in your life, if you can feel the rumble of reversal in your spirit, shout it in the comments, divine reversal. Because what I'm about to show you next will prove that your greatest victory has been waiting in the wings of your worst defeat. The very stage where you thought your story ended is where your legacy begins. Chosen one, I need you to stop everything right now and listen to what I'm about to reveal. Because what you've been calling drought, what you've been calling delay, what you've been calling God's silence, it was never what you thought it was. You thought you were in famine. But underneath your feet, a river raged. For 40 years, Moses led 2 million people through a desert. No rivers, no streams, just sand and scorching sun. But do you know what archaeologists discovered beneath that same wilderness? Underground aquifers, massive rivers flowing just 20 feet below the surface. Water so pure, so abundant, it could have sustained 10 million people for 1,000 years. They were walking on top of their miracle and never knew it. Dear one, You've been living the same story. Every morning you wake up counting bills instead of blessings. Every night you fall asleep wondering if God forgot your postal code. You've been crying drought while standing on top of the greatest underground river of abundance that's ever existed. You thought you were in famine. But underneath your feet, a river raged. Jeremiah 2:13 reveals something that will shatter your understanding. My people have committed two sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water, and have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. Listen carefully to what God is saying. He's not just any water source. He's the spring of living water. Not a well that runs dry, not a pond that evaporates. A spring that never stops flowing, never stops rising, never stops overflowing. But here's what'll break your heart and heal it at the same time. While you've been digging broken cisterns, working 2 jobs at 75, borrowing money from children who barely call, rationing pills to make them last, there's been a spring of living water beneath your circumstances this entire time. You've been digging wells when you should have been drilling for geysers. Think about the woman at the well in John 4. She came to draw water at noon, the hottest part of the day, because she was ashamed, hiding from the other women. Broken by 5 failed marriages, rejected by her community. Sound familiar? But Jesus didn't see a failure drawing water. He saw a chosen vessel about to discover the spring of living water within herself. Whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst, he declared. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. Not a trickle, a spring, not a gentle flow, welling up, rising, exploding. You thought you were in famine, but underneath your feet, a river raged. Right now, as I speak these words, something is shifting beneath the surface of your circumstances. Can you feel it? That rumbling in your spirit, that electricity in your chest. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's anticipation. Your soul recognizing the sound of underground rivers preparing to break through. Every tear you've cried over unpaid rent, it was watering the soil above your blessing. Every prayer you've whispered in grocery store aisles, it was calling to the depths. Every sleepless night wondering if God sees you, he was drilling through the bedrock of resistance to release what's always belonged to you. Flowing, rising, breaking, overflowing. The enemy convinced you that your struggles meant God abandoned you, but your struggles were the sound of divine drilling. Every setback was heaven breaking through another layer of rock. Every disappointment was God removing another obstacle between you and your overflow. You've been hearing construction and calling it destruction. In Ezekiel 47, the prophet sees a vision of water flowing from the temple. First, it's ankle deep, then knee deep, then waist deep. Finally, it becomes a river so deep and wide that it brings life wherever it flows. Where the river flows, everything will live, the angel declares. That's your story, chosen one. Your billionaire blessing isn't starting as a flood. It's starting as a trickle. But watch what happens when heaven's river reaches full flow in your life. Everything it touches comes alive. Your bank account, your relationships, your health, your family tree. Everything will live. But here's the shocking truth that'll change everything. This river isn't coming to you. It's been flowing through you all along. You've been waiting for external blessing when God embedded internal abundance in your spiritual DNA before you took your first breath. The billionaire blessing is not chasing you, it's erupting from within you. You are not a desert waiting for rain. You are an oasis that forgot it contains springs. You are not a dry well hoping for water. You are a geyser that's been building pressure for decades, and you're about to blow. Isaiah 55:11 promises, "My word that goes out from my mouth will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." Every word of blessing God has ever spoken over your life is still active, still working, still moving through the underground systems of divine providence, flowing, rising, breaking, overflowing. That promise he made when you were 25, It's been earning compound interest in heaven's bank. That vision he gave you at 40, it's been developing in the dark like roots of a mighty oak. That prophetic word someone spoke over you at 60, it's been building steam like a geyser preparing to erupt. Your blessing isn't trickling down from heaven's clouds. Your blessing is exploding up from heaven's depths. This isn't precipitation, beloved. This is eruption. And when it breaks through, when that underground river of abundance finally surfaces in your reality, everyone who said you were finished will witness the greatest comeback in your family's history. Everyone who counted you out will count you blessed. Everyone who wrote your obituary will write your biography. The drought wasn't your destiny. The river was always your reality. Can you hear it now? That rumbling beneath your feet. That's not uncertainty, chosen one. That's certainty. The river is rising. The pressure is building. The breakthrough is breaking through. Type it. Shout it. Write it down. The river is mine, because what's about to erupt from the depths of God's faithfulness will turn your desert into an Eden, your wasteland into a wonderland, your poverty into prosperity, so abundant that billionaires will study your story to understand how heaven's economy really works. But the question that determines everything is this: when that geyser of blessing explodes through the surface of your circumstances, will you be ready to steward the flood? Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, in Grand Central Terminal, a train is pulling into the station. The doors slide open with that familiar hiss. Steam rises from the tracks, like incense from heaven's altar. But here's what'll shake you to your core. 90% of people standing on that platform will hesitate. They'll check their phones. They'll second-guess their destination. They'll wait for the next train, and the doors will close. That train? It's your billionaire's blessing, and it's not coming back. You think I'm being dramatic? Let me tell you about the most expensive hesitation in human history. The children of Israel stood at the edge of the promised land, milk and honey flowing just 11 days away from Egypt. 11 days. But they hesitated. They sent spies. They debated. They feared. They delayed. 40 years. 40 years wandering in circles because they missed their moment. An entire generation died in the desert because they couldn't board the train when heaven opened the doors. Numbers 14:23 records God's verdict. They shall not see the land which I swore to their fathers, not because they were evil, because they hesitated when faith demanded action. You feel that chill running down your spine? That's the Holy Spirit confirming what your flesh wants to deny. Delay isn't just postponement, it's disobedience. Hesitation isn't wisdom, it's rebellion wrapped in religious language. Every day you wait is a day you're telling the Almighty, your timing isn't good enough for me. But let me paint you another picture that'll haunt your sleep tonight. Queen Esther, standing outside the king's chamber. One step forward meant possible death. One step back meant certain genocide for her people. The kingdom's fate balanced on a moment of decision. And what did Mordecai tell her? If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. Esther 4:14. Read it again. If you remain silent, not if you're unqualified, not if you're unprepared. If you remain silent, your silence is someone else's death sentence. Your delay is someone else's deliverance being postponed. That single mother in Detroit praying for a miracle, she's waiting on your obedience. That teenager in the Bronx about to give up on life, his breakthrough is tied to your breakthrough. How many nights have you lain awake asking God, when will my blessing come? But heaven's been asking a different question. When will you stop making excuses and step into what I've prepared? You're 75 years old, counting Social Security dollars while God's trying to deposit billions. You're worried about Medicare payments while heaven's trying to make you the answer to someone's medical bills. You're clipping coupons while the creator of the universe is trying to make you someone else's coupon, their discount on despair, their rebate on hopelessness. The vault is open right now, not tomorrow morning, not after you pray about it, not after you fast for 3 days. Right now, the spiritual mechanism that unlocks billionaire blessings doesn't operate on Eastern Standard Time. It operates on obedience time. Here's what terrifies me about your situation. God's been extending this invitation for months, maybe years. Every time you've felt that stirring in your chest during worship, every time you've heard a message about breakthrough and thought, "That's for me." Every time heaven has whispered your name through a song, a scripture, a sunset that made you weep for reasons you couldn't explain. Those weren't coincidences, those were boarding calls. But you've been standing on the platform, making excuses. "I'm not ready. I don't deserve it. Maybe next time." Do you know what that sounds like to heaven? It sounds like the Israelites saying, "Egypt wasn't that bad. At least we had food there." Your blessing will not wait forever. Even God's patience has parameters. Even divine opportunities have expiration dates. The same God who opened the Red Sea also closed it. The same God who opened prison doors for Peter let them stay locked for John the Baptist. Write today's date in the comments right now. Not your birthday. Not next Sunday. Today's date. That becomes your covenant signature with heaven. Your spiritual timestamp saying, "Yes, Lord, I'm boarding this train because I need you to understand something that'll either liberate you or terrify you." Tomorrow morning, heaven's vault might close. Not as punishment, but as natural consequence. Divine timing doesn't bend to human hesitation. The blessing train doesn't sit in the station indefinitely while you decide if you're worthy to board. Are you really going to let the greatest financial anointing in your family's history pass by because you were too afraid to say yes when heaven said now? The doors are open. The steam is rising. Heaven is watching your next move. What's it going to be? Listen to me, chosen one. I need to speak to something that's been breaking your heart for years. Something you've carried in silence while the world moved on without you. Your children mocked your faith. They rolled their eyes when you talked about God's promises. "Mom, Dad, be realistic," they said, making you feel foolish for believing in miracles. Your grandchildren barely call. When they do, it's rushed conversations, distracted voices, checking their phones while you pour out your heart. You've become an afterthought in your own bloodline, haven't you? The holidays come and go. Empty chairs at your table. Voicemails that go unreturned. You sit in that same chair, looking at family photos from decades ago, wondering if anyone would even notice if you were gone tomorrow. You've watched your own flesh and blood treat strangers with more respect than they show you. But heaven never erased your name. While they were dismissing your dreams, God was documenting your faithfulness. While they were counting you out, He was counting your tears in bottles of liquid gold. Every sleepless night you spent praying for them, every dollar you sacrificed for their education, every time you chose their needs over your own desires, heaven's ledger recorded it all. You know what you are, beloved. You're an oak tree. Look at those ancient oaks in Central Park. Hundreds of years old, towering above everything else, roots so deep they survived hurricanes that toppled younger trees. Every ring in their trunk tells a story of seasons weathered, storms survived, years of faithful standing when everything else fell. Every wrinkle on your face is a ring of wisdom. Every scar on your heart is a crown of endurance. Every gray hair is silver testimony that you've walked through fire and refused to burn. You're not aging, chosen one. You're becoming vintage wine, and God saves the best vintage for those who know how to appreciate its worth. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. This billionaire's blessing that's breaking into your life right now, it's not just for you. What if the blessing you're birthing isn't for you, but for the generations you'll never meet? Picture this with me. Close your eyes and see your great-grandchild, maybe not even born yet, standing in a boardroom 50 years from now. They're signing papers that will change communities, making decisions that heal broken families, speaking with an authority they can't explain. They don't even know your name, but they're walking in the blessing you're receiving right now, in this very moment. The house they'll live in, You paid for it with prayers you're praying tonight. The college they'll attend, you funded it with faith you're exercising right now. The business they'll build, you bankrolled it with the billionaire's blessing God is releasing through your bloodline this very hour. Solomon didn't just get rich for himself. His wisdom built a temple that became the heartbeat of Jerusalem for 1,000 years. Kings traveled from the ends of the earth just to witness what God had built through one man's obedience. Your name is about to be etched into your family tree like those oak rings carrying generations inside it. That child who wrote you off, they're going to call you blessed. Those grandchildren who barely visit, they're going to study your life like a sacred text. That family that counted you out is about to discover they miscounted God's mathematics. Proverbs 13:22 declares, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." Not just money, beloved. Legacy, favor, open doors that swing wide for people who share your DNA. Blessing that flows like rivers through bloodlines for generations. Right now, somewhere in your family tree, there's a single mother who doesn't know how she'll pay next month's rent. There's a teenager contemplating suicide because he thinks he has no future. There's a great-granddaughter who needs college money you'll never see her earn. This blessing coming to you isn't just changing your bank account, it's rewriting their entire destiny. You are not just receiving wealth, you are becoming somebody's answered prayer. Listen to me carefully. That abandoned feeling, that loneliness that sits in your chest like a stone, that sense that you've been forgotten by the very people you gave your life to raise, it's about to be transformed into the greatest testimony of God's faithfulness your family has ever witnessed. You think your obituary will say you died forgotten. Think again. It's going to say you died victorious, that you became the turning point when everything changed, that you were the generation when poverty died and prosperity was born, when curses broke and blessings began. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. This legacy blessing has a window, and that window is closing. God is calling the faithful remnant, the ones who held on when holding on made no sense, the ones who kept believing when believing looked foolish, the ones who never stopped praying even when heaven seemed silent. Your faithfulness in the wilderness is about to be rewarded in the promised land. But you have to step into it. You have to receive it. You have to declare it over your bloodline with the authority of someone who knows they've been chosen for such a time as this. If you believe your children and grandchildren will walk in this blessing, if you know in your spirit that your legacy is about to shift from struggle to strength, declare it right now in the comments. My bloodline is blessed. Because what happens in the next few minutes will determine whether this blessing flows through you like a river or stops at you like a dam. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, your poverty has an expiration date, and that date is today. The billionaire's blessing breaking into your life isn't dependent on your perfection, it's rooted in God's faithfulness. Every tear you've shed over unpaid bills, every sleepless night counting pennies instead of blessings, it all ends now. You are stepping from survival into abundance, from barely making it to overflow that can't be contained. Second, this blessing isn't just about you, it's about generations. You are not just receiving wealth, you are becoming somebody's answered prayer. Your unborn great-grandchildren will walk in houses you prayed for, attend colleges you funded through faith, and build businesses with resources God is releasing through your bloodline right now. You are the oak tree whose roots will nourish your family tree for centuries. Third, your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Every wrinkle is wisdom, every scar is testimony, every gray hair is a crown of glory earned through decades of faithful service. God doesn't retire his chosen ones, he promotes them. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. You're right on time for your greatest miracle. But hear me clearly, dear one. You are not walking this path alone. The same God who opened the vault with your name on it is still working behind the scenes of your life right now. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating blessing you can't even imagine. Romans 8:28 still echoes through eternity. All things work together for good to them that love God. And right here, in this sacred digital sanctuary we've created together, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggle because they've walked the same path. Look at these comments flowing like a river of faith. These aren't just usernames on a screen, these are fellow warriors who felt your pain, shared your tears, and now they're ready to celebrate your breakthrough. You belong here. You are loved here. You are never alone here. Let me ask you this final question that will echo in your heart long after this video ends. If God has brought you this far through every valley, every storm, every season that tried to break you, why would He abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest victory? Before I release you into your destiny, place your hand on your heart and let me speak over your life with the authority of someone who has seen God move mountains in impossible situations. Almighty God, creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Father, you see them sitting there right now, some weeping, some hoping, some barely believing, but all desperately needing your touch. Lord, I pray that you would reach down from your throne right now and place your mighty hand upon their shoulders. Let them feel your presence like warm oil flowing through their weary bones. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are chosen. Where they feel empty, fill them with your abundance. Where they feel hopeless, breathe fresh faith into their lungs. God, open every vault that has their name written on it. Release every resource you've been storing up for their breakthrough season. Let the billionaire's blessing flow like a river through their lives, their families, their communities. Give them wisdom to steward what you're about to release, courage to receive what you're ready to give, and faith to believe that their greatest days are not behind them, they're ahead of them. Father, bless their children who have walked away. Bring them home with hearts wide open. Heal the relationships that have been fractured by time and misunderstanding. Let this blessing become the bridge that restores what seemed impossible to repair. And Lord, use their testimony. Let their transformation become hope for someone else drowning in despair. Let their abundance become provision for those still struggling. Let their victory become proof that you still move mountains for those who trust in you. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer and release these your children into the abundance that has been waiting for them since before time began. Amen. Now, beloved, don't keep this message to yourself. In the comments below, share how God spoke to your heart today. Tell us what you're believing Him for in this new season. Ask us to pray for specific areas of your life. This community will surround you with intercession like a mighty army. And please, share this video with someone who needs to hear that their breakthrough is closer than they think. There's someone in your family, your neighborhood, your church, who's been waiting for exactly this message. Don't let them miss their divine appointment because you kept this to yourself. If this word has stirred something eternal in your spirit, if you know you'll never be the same after tonight, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You're not just subscribing to a channel, you're connecting with a movement of chosen ones who refuse to settle for less than God's best. Thank you for investing your precious time in seeking God's heart for your future. Thank you for believing that your story isn't over, that your best chapter is yet to be written. Thank you for having the courage to hope again when hope seemed foolish. Until we meet again, walk in the knowledge that you are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond doubt, and blessed beyond your wildest dreams. Your billionaire's blessing is not coming, beloved. It's here. Now go and receive it. God bless you mightily.